Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, a free site, bettingangle.us, a free site. Today is June the 8th, 2022. Let's talk WBA heavyweight title fight between unbeaten champion Trevor Bryan and Daniel Dubois. But first, remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now look, I think Dubois has the much higher ceiling than Trevor Bryan. Right? Explosive puncher. Can hit you hard with punches that are hard to block because they come from odd angles. Right? This is the guy who I feel could be this generation's Mike Tyson. But he's still figuring out the sport. I saw him in a fight against Richard Lardy, and wow, he looked winded and tired, and that fight at the time was in the third round. Right? He can't pace himself that well. Against Joe Joyce, this was a guy who is fighting Joyce, who has an excellent jab. That should be obvious looking at film. And yet Dubois seemed surprised by it. Got jabbed to death. Eventually had to retire in the fight. Could not handle the jab, even though he had all the physical attributes on Joyce. Right? Dubois is a great athlete when he's not winded. Right? I'll question his stamina, but I'm not going to question his athleticism at the start of fights. Right? Sometimes that's a curse. When you have a guy who hits us hard with both hands, as Dubois does, right, who is a better athlete than most of the guys he's facing. Sometimes a guy with those gifts can become too reliant on those gifts and not fully develop his game. Now, I need for people to understand where Dubois is in his career. His last two fights were against Brogdon Din, second round KO, and Joe Cusimano, where he got a first round KO. This is a huge step up in class for him, fighting Trevor Bryan. Right? Understand, I know. We look at the belt that Bryan has, and we say, come on now, is that real? You know, how could this guy go around and call himself a heavyweight champ? But understand that Bryan, like Joyce, has an excellent jab. Understand that Bryan, like Joyce, is unbeaten. Understand, most importantly, that Bryan has power. He stopped B.J. Flores. He stopped Bermane Stavern. Folks, those were stoppages. He also has the benefit of the Dubois-Joe Joyce tape. So now he can see how a jab can be used effectively against Dubois. He can see the mistakes Dubois has made. So, this is one of those moments here where I think Dubois wins the fight, but that's not how I'm going to bet it. Right? You really have to go with the odds. Now first, my main bet. The over-under here is ridiculous. It's 3.5 rounds. 3.5. That means that if this fight goes past the midway point of the fourth round, right? 3 full rounds, half of the fourth, then you win on the over. Folks, Bryan has not lost. He's so serious about this fight that he convinced Larry Holmes to help him prepare. I'm telling you, Larry Holmes is one of history's more underrated fighters. Right? Great jab. Bryan, who clearly has looked at Dubois films, understood the jab in the Joyce fight worked against Dubois. Let me get myself arguably the best jab in heavyweight history into my camp so we can talk about the jab. My primary bet here is to take the over 3.5 rounds. I understand Dubois hasn't made it to the third round in his last 2 fights, but that's against Danu and Customano. Right? I can't even pronounce the guy's name. That's how milk cartonish the guy is. Customano. Right? Now he's fighting an unbeaten champ in Trevor Bryan. Right, folks? You know Bryan hasn't been knocked out because he has not lost. This over-under is insulting. This is a crowd mania number. I'm taking the over 3.5 rounds. Now let me say, if this fight was even money, and understand Bryan's the champ, not Dubois, I would take Dubois. Right? I think Dubois has the higher ceiling. I think Dubois can be explosive. But I'm not going to do that here. The odds matter. You mean to tell me that some yahoo decided to make Trevor Bryan a plus 650? The champ who's fighting in the United States. Right? It's Bryan who's the home country fighter. And you're going to give me a plus 650? Given that Bryan has a jab and has power, he's not going to be running from Daniel Dubois. He's going to be trying to keep Dubois outside with a jab. Then if Dubois slips the jab and comes inside, and that's an open question, right? Because Dubois is still learning how to deal with the jab. If Dubois slips the jab and comes inside, Bryan's going to have punches that he's going to try to make Dubois run into. Right? Bryan has 15 KOs, folks. So look, this isn't an even money fight. Dubois is not a slight favorite. They've made Dubois something like an 11-1 favorite. I'll be the casino's Huckleberry. I'll concede I expect Dubois to win. But I'm taking the over 3.5 rounds. And I'm taking the plus 650 on Trevor Bryan simply to win the fight. Right? Understand, too, at these huge odds, right, a plus 650, you can come up with a hedge. Right? This is in a fight where you already have taken 2 betting options. The over 3.5 rounds, that's my primary bet. By the way, you're getting a plus 110 there. You're getting better than even money there. I like the over 3.5 rounds. I like Bryan simply to win. I'm not going to be greedy here. You're giving me a plus 650. I don't need to say by knockout, by decision. No, I'll just take the plus 650 on the whole thing. And then there's a third option. Because you're getting better than even money on these two, right? You're getting 650 on one of the options. The third option is simply Dubois by KO. Right? He is an explosive puncher. He does have a high ceiling. This is a statement fight since he lost to Joe Joyce and hasn't fought a world-class fighter since then. Right? Also, he's on American soil. People who come to the United States want to make a statement, want to introduce themselves to the American boxing fan in an emphatic manner. Right? So, the 3 bets I like. The over 3.5 rounds. Why? Because the casino's giving me great odds, right? 3.5 rounds, okay. Sign me up, right? Especially when you're dealing with an unbeaten champion in Bryan, right? The next bet is Bryan simply to win. Here again, I don't even believe in this bet. You don't have to believe in a bet to know that it's badly mispriced, right? There's a fair chance that Bryan wins this fight. A plus 650? Folks, that's simply ridiculous. Then my third bet will be Dubois by KO. Right? That's really a hedge type thing where, just in case Dubois comes out guns blazing, then I get back some of my money on the over 3.5 rounds and the Bryan simply to win. That's how I see this fight. The big question here, for me at least, is going to be, how does Dubois handle Bryan's jab? Right? Understand, Dubois, because of the trauma involved in having to lose his unbeaten status against Joyce because he couldn't figure out the jab, Dubois might spend a round or two just looking at Bryan to figure out the angles. Understand, Dubois has the faster foot speed. If I were Dubois, I would certainly get the lay of the land in the first round at least, right? Figure out the angle the jab is coming from. Figure out if you can time it so that you can jump in, right, between jabs. Figure out if you want to try to come over the jab. Figure out if you don't even want to deal with the jab and you want to set up, Bryan is a righty, you want to set up over on the guy's right side away from his left jab. But make no mistake, folks, Bryan's a vet. He's going to be doubling and tripling up on the jab. If Dubois is tentative and stays outside, he might not have much of an opening for the first 2 rounds or so. By then, believe it or not, you're more than half into the over-under, which is 3.5 rounds. Right? If this goes over the midway point of the 4th round, I'm just going to exhale. At that point, I can just sit back and watch a good fight. Let me also say, too, Dubois is such a blessed puncher that should Dubois win, I do believe it would be by stoppage. I would not expect Bryan to lose a decision. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section of this video. Thanks for stopping by.